New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
What if the person you think you are is just a fraction of who you truly are? What if years of conditioning and surviving in a challenging world have left you clinging to strategies and beliefs that mask your truest nature? I'm Catherine Duca, psychotherapist and self-esteem coach, and you're listening to Who Do You Think You Are? A show that looks beneath our psychological masks and uncovers our profoundly messy, beautiful, brilliant, tender-hearted essence. Join me as we go in search of the hidden power of our true selves. I'm so glad you're here.
I am so glad you're here. Welcome to Who Do You Think You Are? A podcast to help you learn how to have the highest regard for yourself, how to live from a place of self-love and self-respect, and how to make yourself a priority in your own life. Meet me here each week for curated tips and strategies designed to help you drop your psychological masks, or at least loosen them a bit, connect with your truest essence, and simply live more easily. Because we know that when we approach life in this way, we naturally have more generosity, more room, and more love for others. And not only is that a beautiful thing, my dear listeners, it is never more true than it is on this day, on this week, given the events that are going on in the world and in our country in particular. So before I get into what this particular episode is about, I have to mention California. And, you know, all of us have been watching. All of us are touched by what we're seeing on our screens. I happen to have a couple of clients who live in Los Angeles. Thankfully, they are okay, but their neighborhoods are not, their communities are not, people they know are not. And I'm told what you would expect, that what we are looking at on our televisions and on our screens in no way capture the magnitude of what people are living through. So tonight's topic is living in an adrenalized world. And I don't know that I have the best transition into that topic, but what came up for me is that in order to help our brothers, our sisters, our extended American family, we have to be present to what they're going through. We need to drop down into ourselves and connect with the deepest empathy we have, because that's the place from which we can give more purely and, I believe, more impactfully. So I don't know that I have anything original to say about California. You know, it's all been said. We're all stunned. But if I were to add anything to what others have said, I would say, I think we have to, look for our compassion fatigue. And I think we have to look for what can become, what's the word, when we see things on the news, the same story day in and day out as it unfolds, as people get on with their lives. Dare I say, we might get, complacent, even bored, and switch the channel. So I encourage tonight, and I dedicate tonight's episode to staying awake, staying present, staying and remaining a witness to what is going on. You know, it's so easy to look away because it's so painful, but our family members in this American family, in this national family, which of course is part of a global family, they cannot look away. This is their reality, this is their present, and this will be their future for some time to come. So as we go through the material tonight in this conversation, I hope that we can call to mind and kind of have as a screensaver, if you will, what the rest of our family, members of our family are going through and will go through, and stay present to them. At the end of the show, if you'll allow, I would like to offer a prayer for California. I'll do that at the end. So with this, listeners, I invite you to get as comfortable as you can, maybe get a soothing beverage, and really kind of ease in to this conversation. Drop into your body, open your hearts, open your minds, and let's talk about the atmosphere in which we live in this culture. We live in to say fast pace, I don't think quite captures it. We live in a culture that asks us, demands us, and will shame us if we don't. Live quickly, live rapidly, move from one thing to the next, stay in a heightened state of arousal. And when I say arousal, I mean the brain's arousal. I'll talk about that more in a moment. But we live in an adrenalized culture. We live in a culture that asks us to stay pumped up and stay, ready and poised and sometimes ready to pounce on someone else, or most often pounce on ourselves if we feel we're not keeping up. So tonight's conversation is going to be about living in this adrenalized culture, in an adrenalized state of being. And what I believe, as so many others do, is the transformative power of getting still. Now, getting still sounds like a simple thing to do, doesn't it? But how many of us really do that? When we talk about self-love and self-respect, and those of you who have been listening to these episodes now for a couple of months, you know that the show is about having the highest regard for ourselves, coming from a place of self-love and perhaps even deeper than that, self-respect. And everything I talk about seems to have a drop-down menu. So the drop-down menu for self-love is, I believe, getting quiet, getting still, getting present. But we live in an atmosphere where we're bombarded with messages and images and expectations of doing more, going places faster, moving from one thing to the next, always staying in motion. We live in a culture that almost, pulls us, seduces us, I would say, into believing that doing, reaching, acquiring, maybe even grasping, is the means to a happy life. The more we do, the busier we are, the more worthy we feel. But if you're listening to this podcast, and if you're on this station, you know that that's a myth. And in fact, the more we do go, 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 the more we, talk about drumming to your own beat. The more we drum to the beat of society that will have us running at a pace that may be too fast for our own well-being. We know the more we do that, we actually disconnect from our deeper selves. And this is a podcast where we go in search of our deeper selves. So, living an adrenalized life will have us stuck in a perpetual state of go, constantly pushing ourselves to perform, to produce, and keep pace with other people. Do you wonder what drives that? I think it's really multi-layered. If we look around us, the environment around us, there are so many things to be on high alert about. I think the nation itself is at a state, we have been now for some time, a state of high alert, maybe not the highest, but high alert. If you see something, say something. The random acts of violence that we've witnessed lately have us all in a state of hypervigilance. Now, that may be necessary to a certain extent. And there's a continuum, some people buy into that more or less. But I'm going to say for tonight, I think the bell curve, basing this on people I know and on many of my clients, based on the bell curve, I think many people feel a gnawing sense, a background sense of dis-ease, of irritation, looking over our shoulders. Or, and you know this as well, when that gets to be too much, we just look the other way. We numb out. We use all manner of substances or activities or relationships or behaviors to anesthetize that anxiety. At best, it's a low level degree of anxiety at best. And for many, there's a spike. So there's what's happening in the collective that puts us on high alert, that has us amped up. And then there's what's happening in our own lives. And then there is witnessing, as I just mentioned, witnessing the suffering of others. And so if in your life you're dealing with something, and who isn't, I invite you to be aware of how hypervigilant your own issues are making you relate to yourself. Let me say that again. I don't know that came out the way I heard it in my head. Depending on what's going on in our own lives, we, I think, would do well to take an aerial view and be mindful of where all the stressors are coming from, the external, the collective stressors, and the stressors in our own lives, with our own experiences and the experiences of people we care about. So this adrenaline thing is multi-layered. Now, an interesting thing happens when we feel biologically and physiologically aroused. Something happens in the brain. When we're hypervigilant, many of you know this, we automatically go into a survival mode. We go into fight or flight or freeze. There are others as well, but those are the main: fight, flight, or freeze. We're preparing ourselves. We're preparing ourselves to deal with a threat. And sometimes the threat is the way we feel about our own selves. Sometimes the threat is, I don't feel good enough. Oh, I made that mistake. Oh, I looked kind of stupid there. Oh, they're judging me. And when we become our own critic and speak to ourselves harshly, we place ourselves There are different aspects of our consciousness, and we place ourselves under attack, under threat of our own judgment. So that is the deepest, I believe, most fundamental hypervigilance that we have. It's with our own self. Zooming out, we have a hypervigilance of world events. But beyond that, in our everyday life, no matter what's on the news, we have the hypervigilance of comparing ourselves with other people. How many of us do that? I mean, I'm guilty of that myself, even though I, talk to myself. I'll be talking to myself until I take my last breath, I'm sure. Because life is life, and I'm wired the way I'm wired, and it requires constant work. But I think it's a wonderful work, and it's a gentle work, and self-supportive and self-enhancing. So that's what I mean when I say work. A colleague of mine, Jean Montricelli, calls it comparanoia. Isn't that a great term? When we compare ourselves to others and we fall short, and sometimes we're on the other side of the coin, and we feel like we can feel superior in this realm of comparanoia, because somebody's got to be up and somebody has to be down. We would say it feels better to be up. But you know what? It's two sides of the same coin, isn't it? So the best thing we can do, I think, rather than chase happiness, it's really the illusion of happiness, because as anyone knows, you get something, you get somewhere, you get the relationship, you achieve the milestone, and what happens? It feels wonderful for some time. But then the sparkle wears off, and we rededicate ourselves to chasing the next thing. Some of us chase multiple things simultaneously. Think of the pressure. If we just allow ourselves to engage the chase and wake up each morning and just go into it and wring our hands because somebody has more followers or more likes, we're really just perpetuating the engine that drives this internal dis-ease and an adrenaline state of being, right? And when we're in that fight or flight, the hormones, the chemicals flow, that's a survival technique. We know that. We can thank evolution for that. And frankly, we're here today because our ancestors were hypervigilant, and they looked all around, and they had to maintain their place in the tribe. And if under attack by an animal or an adversarial tribe, they went to battle. And when you go to battle, you need all these chemicals. You need adrenaline. You need cortisol, norepinephrine, on and on. You need these. Things happen. It's so interesting, really. Clients tell me often, they basically say the same thing in almost the same words. I was in that situation. My boss was talking to me in a certain way, or my partner or friend or somebody talking to me in a certain way. And I didn't have a comeback. I went blank. Has that ever happened to you? I went blank. Well, going blank really has a basis in our physiology. What happens is the part of the brain that's responsible for executive reasoning literally goes offline. The blood leaves that part of the brain. It redistributes itself elsewhere, in our limbs so we can lunge, in our legs so we can run. Our digestion gets shut down because, who needs lunch when you're being chased by a wild boar or a mad boss? So we're here because people did that along the way. But they didn't live in a world where the threat level was orange. They didn't have all the things that we see on the news that we know is happening in the world. They probably weren't as hard on themselves as we are with ourselves. So when the battle was over, the adrenaline abated, the spigot, if you will, turned off, the blood returned to the prefrontal cortex. They had their, as my clients call it, their common sense back. They could exercise their better judgment. They weren't blank. They weren't a deer in headlights, or they weren't running. But living in this culture with all the things I mentioned, the spigot is on most of the time. For some people, it's on literally all the time. And even in their dreams, they're anxious. If this is something you're experiencing, I hope this conversation is helpful, because we're going to take a break in a bit. But when we come back, I'm going to talk about what we can do to drop into stillness, because stillness is the antidote to living with the adrenaline spout in the on position. But it takes a little bit of know-how, just a tiny bit. Once you know how, I think you'll develop an appetite for it. And once you develop an appetite for it, I think you'll develop what's known as a healthy addiction to it. So let me pause there. I think I see out of the corner of my eye some comments. I'm going to go to the... Leandra, good evening from Knoxville, Tennessee. Yes, I think it's about finding balance, absolutely finding balance, because the idea is not to turn a blind eye to these realities. I mean, we can't do that, but it is not to tip our psychological, emotional, spiritual scales so far in that direction that it costs us our own mindfulness, our own relationship with ourselves. So, Leandra, you're absolutely right. Balance is the word. Tammy. Welcome, Tammy. Good to see you. Good to see you. Dawn. Oh, Dawn has two parts here. Dawn, part one. Thank you, Dawn. We're so used to the chase, the comparing, the stressors of daily living. We don't realize it's not healthy. It's not how it was meant to be. That's why discussions like this bring awareness. I certainly hope so, Dawn. And part two. And give opportunities to make different choices, develop practices to ameliorate the daily stress accumulation. So true, because what I would call that is, what is mindfulness? I mean, we use that term all the time. It's a beautiful term. I love that term, mindful. Now, sometimes our mind is too full. I'm not talking about that, but being mindful. I look at it as taking an aerial view of how we are living. A 30,000-foot view of where our attention is going. Because where our attention is going, we get more of. If we place our attention in an anxious place all of the time without, as Leandra says, balance, not good. Hormones, chemicals, flooding. And by the way, that just isn't a phenomenon in isolation when these chemicals course through our bodies. Those chemicals course through every part of our bodies, our organs. So imagine every thought, what is a thought? A thought is, I think in neurological terms, a thought is an impulse. And it manifests as visuals, as images, pictures in our mind. But really, in terms of brain science, what I know of it, which is just admittedly just the basics, but I know this much, that those impulses are carried along an electrical system in our body. That's why the defibrillator, boom, electricity to our heart. So think about if we're having calm, mindful, balanced way of being. way of being with ourselves, what are we transmitting to the rest of our body? Calmness, equanimity, balance versus chaos, fear, terror, anxiety. So it's not about making those experiences disappear. How can we? It's about being aware and being mindful and appropriating our energy accordingly. Right? So with that as the backdrop, I thank my, one more, Still Bill. I just want to say, Still Bill, it looks like you are keeping your commitment to yourself, your promise to yourself from last week. Bill said his promise to himself is to tune in every week. Nice going, Bill. And of course, I am honored. Be still and know that I am God. It actually works when you realize that God's got your back no matter what happens. I can only put a punctuation mark on that, Bill. Whatever our religious beliefs may be, those of us who believe in a higher power, those of us who believe in universal forces, something bigger than ourselves, understand that each of us is a microcosm of that, and the divine lives in each of us. Think about that. Think about that. The divine lives in each of us. We are one with the divine. And so we are not only loved, but according to that, we are love. We are love embodied. We go out our door, we are love. We speak to someone, we are love. And depending upon how connected or not we are to the source of love within, that will dictate how we interact, what we give, and what we receive. It's a beautiful concept, isn't it? I almost said complex. I think I did say complex. Well, some of this is complex as well. Multi-layered, not black or white. Last week, by the way, we talked about all or nothing, black or white. So, with all of this as a backdrop, let's go to a break. Let's stay connected to each of us as we do. When we come back, I'll talk about what we can do to cultivate stillness within or to reach stillness within. It doesn't involve a lot of striving. It actually involves allowing. So we'll talk about that. If there's time, I will answer a question that came in and the rest of your comments. So you're listening to Who Do You Think You Are on New Thought Media Network.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
What if the person you think you are is just a fraction of who you truly are? What if years of conditioning and surviving in a challenging world have left you clinging to strategies and beliefs that mask your truest nature? I'm Catherine Duca, psychotherapist and self-esteem coach, and you're listening to Who Do You Think You Are? A show that looks beneath our psychological masks and uncovers our profoundly messy, beautiful, brilliant, tender-hearted essence. Join me as we go in search of the hidden power of our true selves. I'm so glad you're here.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, I'm Catherine Duca, host of Who Do You Think You Are? Psychotherapist and self-esteem coach. And tonight's conversation is about leading an adrenalized life and the art and the invitation to become still and become quiet and the transformative power of that. So I said that the pitfalls of living a life in which we're constantly on the go, the pedal is pressed to the metal, do, on to the next thing, never stand still. The pitfalls of that are our body secretes all kinds of hormones, and which is not good for us, really, as a steady diet. And how each of us is dealing with collective and individual stressors. And we're now going to talk about a few things each of us can do to mitigate that and to achieve, as Leandra told us at the top of the hour, more balance. So I always feel like I need to admit none of these are original. You have heard these all before, but I hope that by tying them together and linking them to living in a certain way, the positive and the negative of that, I hope maybe you hear it differently, or if you know these things already, and you do, that you're more inclined to apply them to your life, right? You know, the longest distance is from here to here, from the head to the heart. Most of us know what to do, but actually doing it and having an experience is a different matter altogether. You know, I remember years ago, I wanted to, get my body in better shape. So in those days, I bought all the Jane Fonda tapes, right? And I watched each of them, but I didn't, nothing happened to my body. Okay. So you get the idea. The growth is in the application. So the very first and most important thing we need to do to change direction, to shift course, is to be aware. Just be aware that we might be living on this track, go, do, acquire, because that'll make me happy until I get the next thing, then that'll make me happy. Oh, gee, I'm left behind. Everyone else is passing me up. Oh, it's too much. Let me shut that experience down by using something, right? So being aware, taking that aerial view, as I said, and going from living on autopilot to living more mindfully. That's step number one, most important. Just being aware will take you, it will take you out of that previous groove just by simply being aware. Okay, so if you do nothing more than that, you will automatically not, your wheels won't go on that track unconsciously. Okay, awareness sort of, I say, takes the pleasure out of living mindlessly, which is actually a good thing. The next thing we can do, nothing new, set boundaries, say no. So many of us say yes because in this culture we want to feel connected. Now, feeling connected, I have to say, connected in lowercase, because in the age of social media where people have friends but no real connection, but the fear of missing out will have us thinking we're connected. So we say yes to things, and we say yes when we'd rather not, and Or we say yes because we feel seduced into thinking that that's going to get us a big prize. So simple words, saying no, will go a long way. We can say it nicely. I did a podcast on saying no. I have a printout. If you're so inclined, email me, Catherine at catherineduca.com, for a list of, I think I call it 50 Shades of Saying No. 50 Shades of Saying No. So that's an important one and something you can do tomorrow. Here's one nobody likes, myself included: disconnecting from technology. I personally do that. I don't like to do it, and I have a little trepidation. But then I think about all of this. I think about what I'm saying, and I try to attend my own lecture, if you will. And I do take a break from time to time. Do I miss things? Yes. Might I lose momentum with social media? Of course. What's more important? I think my well-being and my balance is more important. So that price is worth it for me. Meditation, very important. If you're not someone who meditates, you might hear meditation and think it's a bigger deal than it really is. Harder to do than it really is. So I invite and encourage you to do a walking meditation. A walking meditation is simply going for a walk in nature. Try not to have, the news on, because that kind of cancels out what you're doing. Perhaps soft music if you want. And it is bringing all of your awareness to all of your sensory experiences as you take each step: heel, toe, left, right, step up the curb, off the curb, avoid the crack, whatever the case may be. You are bringing your awareness, and it is meditative. And you are feeling all the things, right? You're feeling the breeze on your face. You're hearing the birds. You're seeing the chipmunk or the iguana, wherever you live. The creatures. You're hearing the leaves rustle. You're feeling the sand beneath your feet. Whatever it is, you're smelling the air, however it smells. And that is such a grounding experience. It's a quieting experience. And it brings us on that elevator down into the depths of who we really are. Because from the chatter up, it's not really who we are at core. From the chatter up is who we are as survivors. But from the chatter down, when we listen, that's who we really are. And then lastly, breathing. Most of us are probably breathing right now, but the kind of breathing I'm talking about is, it's called something. I can't think of the name right now. There is square breathing. Inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4. There's another kind of breathing where you inhale as best you can. And just when you think you can't take in any more air, you see if you can take in a little bit more. And then exhale. And if you can, exhale with a sound. Exhale with a sigh. Kind of, as prolonged as it needs to be. That will go a long way toward calming your nervous system and helping you to get still and get quiet and get centered and grounded and all those things. And that's a whole other world. And then when we do that and we live there for a while, when we exit that place and take the elevator back up and the doors open into this thing called our daily lives, our communities, we're sitting in traffic, we're on a long line, whatever the case may be, we bring that stillness with us and that groundedness with us. We're less likely to feel impatient. We're less likely to pounce. We're more likely to connect with anyone around us, offer a kind word, we're more likely to give from that place. And in that place, it isn't giving to get. It is not transactional. From that place, there is a wellspring of that which we are, which is love. So there you have it. Aerial view, off of autopilot, into awareness. Saying one of the most powerful words we can. No, you can say it nicely. Set boundaries, disconnect from technology, meditate a bit. Honestly, 3 minutes. 3 minutes a day. It's the act of doing it. It's not necessarily the time. And breathing. So, listeners, with that, let me see if there's any. Oh, Lori, welcome, Lori. The aerial view and living more mindfully. Yes, it all starts with awareness, doesn't it though? Doesn't it though? And awareness feels good. I'm going to correct myself or add to it. Oh, awareness feels good. Why? Because it involves self-mastery. It involves courage. It involves presence. But awareness and awakening and looking at what's really going on around us and within us might not be a walk in the park. It might be painful. It might be painful. It will be painful. I say, if you're awake and you're not in some level of pain, I don't know. You can't be awake and not be in some level of pain because there's too much going on to not feel something. So with that, looking at the time, I think I can get a question in. So let me check the chat. Okay, I hope everybody's with me. And I hope at this point in the conversation, you're feeling more peaceful, more grounded in yourself, more here and now. So I got a question from Natalie. Natalie says, I'm worried that if I slow down and prioritize my well-being, I'll fall behind and miss out on opportunities. How can I trust that taking care of myself won't sabotage my success? I'm worried that if I slow down and prioritize myself, I'll fall behind and miss out on opportunities. How can I trust that taking care of myself won't sabotage my success? Well, I completely understand that fear. And I'm not going to say you won't miss out on something. I'm not going to say that. You may. But the idea is, what will you gain? What will you gain? And if you ask yourself, are you on some sort of chasey chase? Ask yourself, where has that led? Where has that led you? To fulfillment? Doesn't exactly sound like it. So think about what you get in exchange. You know, when we overextend ourselves in the pursuit of happiness, happiness has more to do with allowing than pursuing. We oftentimes run ourselves into the ground. We are on E. And when you think about that, how useful, how impactful, how complete can you be when you're on E? So I submit to you, Natalie, and the rest of us, that when we replenish our tank, we can be more generous, truly generous, because we have it to give. We're not giving from a place of like bottom of the barrel energy, because what? That leads to resentment. That leads to irritation. That leads to kind of feeling down, depleted. You know, the oxygen mask analogy isn't for nothing. So when we replenish and fill our tank with awareness, with self-presence, with self-reflection, with self-accountability, we actually have more bandwidth, more generosity of spirit, generosity of time. We can be present to ourselves and other people. And don't you think that can make you more successful, not less? Eventually, when the tank runs dry, the engine, the car can't run. No oil, what happens to the engine? So it's not about slowing down and being less productive. That's not the way to look at it, I believe, Natalie. It's not about slowing down and being less productive. It's about looking within and seeing and experiencing. And you won't know until you do it and kind of taste it, how expansive that is. Because it is just that. And from there, we just have more quality, more attunement, more of an ability to appreciate our experiences because we're in them. We're not distracted, moving through onto the next. So I invite you to reframe this concept about, it's indulgent of me to take care of myself in the ways I've said. It's not that it's indulgent. I maintain it's treating yourself with respect and love. And the more we do that, I'll say it again, the more we have to give that to other people. So Natalie, if you're listening, I hope that's useful. You won't sabotage your success. I think you will enhance it. A book comes to mind that I think you might like. It's a book, it came out, New York Times bestseller some years ago. There are two books I like, actually. One is 10% Happier by Dan Harris. Very interesting. The subtitle is something like, I don't remember the first part. Something like meditating or going inward or something, but the key is without losing your edge. Dan Harris was a reporter. I think he was on the Good Morning America, and he had a panic attack on live television, and you can imagine. And that kind of put him on a course for looking inward big time. And he discovered meditation. But it's a very real, very gritty book. I think you'd like it. And the whole thing is, he did that and he didn't lose his edge. In fact, he was sharper, he felt. And the other book I'd like to recommend is a book that I'm really very fond of. It's written by somebody named Duca. It's called Unmasked, Discover the Hidden Power of Your True Self. It's the heart of my work. It's the heart of my work. And I cover many of the things I'm talking about here. So if you're interested in these topics, and I hope you are, I think the book can be helpful. I think it can be kind of a beacon for deeper introspection. Unmasked, Discover the Hidden Power of Your True Self. And Dan Harris's 10% Happier. Give them a read. Okay. Oh, thank you, Tammy. Amazing book. Thank you. I'm glad you think so. Patricia, I think I missed you before. With every opportunity we let go, there is another one there that we likely want more. That's right. It's all about the trade. And involves a little bit of courage and a little bit of trust that what we're letting go of, the thing we know, we can step away from that and trust that we'll be okay. We'll land on our feet if I think we apply these principles. Then we can, like the trapeze artist, you have to let go of the bar or the other person's hands in order to fly and catch the next thing. That's how it works. Clinging, staying safe. Okay, I understand, of course. But it's also small. It's also constrictive and restrictive. And we're meant to fly and support one another in flight. So, dear listeners, there you have it for tonight. Leading an adrenalized life, maybe as a result of this conversation, each of us, including myself, will do less of that and more mindful living from that aerial view. So before we go, I want to read a prayer that I wrote this morning. You can find it on my newsletter if you're so inclined. Again, Catherine at catherineduca.com. If you'd like to be included on that email list, just write in the subject line, add me, and I'll know what you mean. So I wrote this prayer for California this morning. If you would, get still, get present, go inward, take a breath, maybe close your eyes. Divine presence, we call upon your infinite love, wisdom, and guidance. We envision the city of angels and all its inhabitants, as well as any other places affected. We envision those places bathed in the radiant light of your divine presence. We affirm that this special place, Los Angeles, a beacon of hope and opportunity, is a reflection of the divine perfection that resides within every human heart. We see the angels of compassion, kindness, and generosity guiding every thought, every word, every action through grief, through healing and restoration along the road ahead. We declare that every individual in Los Angeles and its surrounds is a unique expression of the divine, worthy of love, respect, and dignity. We envision the fires of fear, doubt, and uncertainty being extinguished by the flames of faith, hope, and love. We affirm that this beautiful city of angels is a city of miracles where healing, recovery, and renewal are the norm. We see the very fabric of this community being woven together with threads of empathy, understanding, and unity. We call upon the divine presence to guide and direct all those affected by the recent fires, as well as those of us who are witnesses to it. May they be comforted, may they be supported, and may they be uplifted by the outpouring of love and generosity from every community across this nation. May we all be moved to reach into the depths of our shared humanity and express the deluge of love made visible. May this prayer and all the other prayers being offered by so many serve as a light along the path forward. God bless Los Angeles. God bless every human being, every animal, every creature, everyone who is touched directly, indirectly, everyone who is witnessing what is happening. May we angel the angels of Los Angeles. And so it is. And so it is. So, friends, this brings us to the end of our time together. I'm so glad you're here with me. You honor me. It's a pleasure to be in your earbuds. I know it's late, and I know it's a Sunday night, and I know all the things that you have to do, and that you spend this time with me touches me deeply. I say that to those on tonight listening, and to those who may listen in the future. I feel a connection to all of you, and I take you with me this week. So with that, I wish each of you well. As I say, if you're worried, if there's something weighing heavily on your mind and your heart tonight, at this hour, put it on a shelf. Let it go just for tonight. It will be there in the morning, I promise. But maybe you'll see it differently. Maybe you'll have a dream. maybe drifting off, you'll have an image, something will come to you, and you'll see that problem differently in the morning. Regardless, for tonight, let yourself sleep, let yourself drift, surrender to a beautiful slumber. I'll take you with me. I would be honored if you would do the same. Until next week, I'm Catherine Duca. You're listening to Who Do You Think You Are on New Thought Media Network. Good night.